evening. Apologies for the delay. I couldn't switch on my laptop for some reason.
No problem. It is worth it.
Thank you so much for the patience.
Mhm.
Um, okay, good evening. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you. So, last time we spoke about a couple of exercises that I recommended, a couple of tips that you can do to improve, I actually don't remember the topic we spoke about,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember
We
that I had, yeah.
yes, we spoke about news. Like the topic was about news channels.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, any interesting topic you would like to recommend for today's session?
Yes. So, like, I had this intuition that you're going to join this session. So, I am already prepared with that topic. So, the topic is, most of the learners struggle with this thing that whenever they are unfamiliar with any topic, they often get blank, right? And then they want to say something, like, they don't want to be silent. So, in that case, what could be your suggestions to help them speak something, at least not to make them feel completely blank. So we can talk about that.
So, basically, tips for how to continue a conversation if you don't know anything about that particular topic.
Right.
Right. So, I have spoken about this in sessions earlier. The most common piece of advice that I like to give people is firstly, okay, so to get to the tip, you have to do a couple
Hmm.
of things first. First, you have to do a lot of research, expose yourself to different industries like, finance, um, maybe space, like um, rocket
Hmm.
engineering or whatever, like, but not actually the engineering part, just the general knowledge of what country is doing what expedition and whatnot, right? There's banking, there's sports, there's cooking, there's fashion, there's so many things that you can involve yourself in, right? But you have to find a couple of industries that you haven't been following, right? And try to get some sort of, let's say, an Instagram page that posts daily this thing, information about a certain industry, or maybe an influencer who cracks a lot of jokes about current events or how things are going, right? So this will help you firstly get a lot of information, general knowledge, and topic points, right? Now, the framework of your question, like the framework that I would suggest to answer your question is, when someone asks me a question and I don't know anything about the industry, firstly, I won't lie about it. I'll say, okay, I don't know anything about that specific question, maybe, but I'll try to connect that topic with something that I know. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say somebody asks me something about politics. Okay, I myself, I'm not really interested in politics, although I do vote, but I don't keep track with the current events or what minister or somebody has switched parties and all. I don't really follow that. So when someone asks me a question like that, my first response is, hey, I don't really I don't really follow politics, although, when I am scrolling on Instagram or I'm watching something on YouTube, something pops up here and there. But one thing I like to know is, what are the requirements for politicians to be elected, or what are the criteria that the government looks at when they're looking at potential politicians, right? So here, forget the topic itself. The topic doesn't matter. The thing is that I told the person that I don't know specifically about the conversation, but I am curious about certain things. So these are my questions, right? Secondly, if you don't want to ask them a question, to answer their question, you don't want to ask them questions sometimes. What you can do is you can talk about something that is connected. So I'll give you this graph that I use. Basically, this is the topic that they want to talk about, right? And you don't know what that particular topic is. You don't know anything about it. But just draw a circle around it. Okay. And in those circles, you'll have categories like 8, 10, 20, 50, whatever you want, how many other categories you can think of. So now, if someone asks me something about politics, that, hey, which party do you support, or what do you think of this certain policy that the government has announced, right? I don't know anything about it. So I'll connect it to either finance, I'll connect it to commerce, I'll connect it to um, controversies, whatever controversies I've seen. I'll connect it to influencers, that, okay, I'm following a certain influencer who's a political comedian, and what does he have to say about certain issues that are going on in the country. So this is what I call a circle of interest. Okay. So if you can't talk about this topic, pick anything from this circle and try to connect it with it. Okay. Now, in terms of politics, if I have to connect it to finance, I'll say, well, I think there should be a little bit more transparency in how political parties receive donations, right? Because we don't know if that is being misused by certain individuals, right? So again, I don't know the topic, but I'm around it. I am
Mhm.
continuing the conversation, right? So this is an exercise I like to give my learners. I tell them to just open the newspaper, pick anything you want from the newspaper. Like there's like 10 pages, you can obviously find a topic there. Make that the center of your topic, something that you don't know. Then draw a circle and then think of what you can connect to it. And I'm not saying stories or points or questions. I'm talking about industries. Okay. So if somebody's talking about a Hollywood, sorry, a Bollywood actor or actress, and some controversy is going on with them. Put them in the center because you don't know who that person is. And then draw a circle around it. See what brand endorsements they have, how they appear publicly, how they were connected with a certain other celebrity because they had a relationship or they dated or something, right? Or see how they are connected to the directors or who got them in the industry, right? And if you don't know any of that, then you can start something completely different from a human aspect, not a celebrity aspect, right? You can say, where are they from? What are they most famous for, right? And then if you, even after all this, if you can't, then I think it becomes very difficult to
Mhm.
have the conversation. But this is exactly why, to broaden the circle around the topic, I tell people have a lot of general knowledge, find channels or profiles on Instagram and just follow them. And even if you're not actively going on that channel every day to look at it, it will pop up in your feed and it will improve your general knowledge. So the more you listen to people, the more information you have in your brain, the easier it is for you to sort of get out of the situation of being stuck or
Mhm.
being not being able to talk about it. Again, all of this that I'm talking about is just mental, right? This has nothing to do with the execution of what you're saying. This has to do with what you can think of that, okay, this is what I have to say, right? I hope,
Mhm.
I know I spoke for a very long time, but I hope
Mhm.
you understood what I'm trying to explain.
Definitely, and that framework was quite intriguing, I must say, because I remember when I was a beginner when I started this journey. That time also I was not very familiar with different topics because I was not into social media, and then I was like not aware of whatever was happening around me. So whenever somebody would ask me any question from nowhere, I would say, so I would get stuck at times, and I would also get anxious before getting into a call because you never know what question can pop up, right? So that's the thing. But yes, you've rightly said that we need to broaden our horizon. We need to get knowledge of different areas of interest. It's not about just your interest. Like if I'm interested in makeup, so I cannot limit my knowledge to just makeup. I need to learn about politics and countries or current affairs, burning topics as well. But I think we should give more weightage to burning topics, like if you want to have good conversation, healthy conversation, and those are mostly about burning topics only, right? And like you said, that if we don't know about any topic, then we can connect the dots, whatever we know about it, like through that framework. And I would say in this way you can take the conversation in a different direction as well. Like if somebody is asking you about politics, and you can start talking about what is some celebrity's preference, and then you can talk about that celebrity itself. Like you can just take it in a different direction if you don't want to talk about politics. So that is also a nice trick if you don't want to talk about it, right?
Exactly. Just a
Mm-hmm.
reminder, if somebody asks you something that you don't know, I generally suggest people to give the disclaimer that, okay, I don't know this, but I think I think this is
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to have the disclaimer because I've seen this in my life, right? Like when I was young in school. Again, this is nothing to do with English. This is to do with personality, like how a person is. And I used to have this friend, and when we used to talk, he would have I've never seen someone with so much confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, whenever he would say something, I would just believe him. I'm like, this guy's so confident, I'm not going to question it. He's probably
Mm-hmm.
right. He's probably one of the smartest people I know. And as I started growing older, I had my own interests. I had my own things that I was keeping track of, or I was, updated about. And I just happened to mention a couple of things. And with like the utmost confidence, he just started talking about how these trends are going to move in this direction and how, certain things he said. And I just realized that this guy doesn't actually know what he's saying. He just says it with like crazy confidence and he makes it look
Mm-hmm.
like I'm the expert in every topic, which I think I learned from because I was like, I may know a lot of things, but I don't want to present it to someone and be like him. Because
Right, right.
when you are that confident and that cocky that I am better than you and I know more than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
One mistake can ruin your image or your trust. Like people won't trust anything you say anymore because you made one mistake, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
intentional or unintentional, right? So whenever it comes to this piece of advice, I generally say, yes, maybe you are connecting the dots and you are using something from the circle that I mentioned, but you should do it with a disclaimer. You shouldn't make it look like, yes, yes, I know everything about this topic, but I want to talk about this particular aspect of it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I think there's a little humility that's needed. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when people like you said it yourself, like politics, something is that you are also not very familiar with, right? So you don't want to sound like, oh yeah, I know everything. Just listen to what I'm going to say now. So
Mm-hmm.
again, this may be a very small point, but I want people to understand that just because I encourage them in terms of confidence, in terms of making mistakes, um, it does come with a disclaimer that you need to be careful about how you present yourself,
Mm-hmm.
how you, I wouldn't say argue, but how you have a discussion with someone about certain topics. Right? It
Mm-hmm.
has to be with humility. It has to come from a place of curiosity, not authority, I would
Mm-hmm.
say.
Hmm. Right. So, as you said this, so I would like to talk on this matter that when somebody has a lot of knowledge, right, and then they start sounding a little arrogant. It happens, right? When you have a lot of knowledge, you keep talking about it, that the other person might think that this person is being arrogant because he thinks that he knows a lot about that topic. So, how
Yeah.
to sound down to earth, I would say, even when you know a lot about the topic or you don't want to sound arrogant? Like, what could be the tips?
Again, this is my own personal view, okay? This is not something that is, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that would be more common. But my logic is if you and I are having a conversation, okay? Now, I cannot argue with you. What is the topic that you mentioned you were good at? Makeup, right?
Although I'm not, but it was just.
Acha. So can you give me a topic that you think you are an expert
Uh-huh.
in?
I am good at homemaking or talking about kids and
Okay,
this
lovely.
house
Perfect
home
example
managing.
because I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I'm better than you at homemaking or like raising kids, I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although I do have my own views of what I would want to do when that time comes, but again, not more experienced than you in that matter, right? So if okay, if I'm saying I'm good at football and I understand gaming, and you said you're good at homemaking and you're good at raising kids, right? The thing is, if we're having an argument about either of them, and I feel like I know everything and I'm feeling a bit cocky or arrogant about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One thing I need to understand is when you and I are having a conversation, is it worth arguing over that? What is the result of that argument? Let's say I win the argument, right? What is the result? What do I get by winning the argument? If nothing, then there's no point having the argument. You can think what you like, I can think what I like, right? Obviously when it comes to the learners, the situation is very different, right? Because it may not be about the result, it may just be a conversation with a close friend and they want to be on the same page when they're going into a situation or anything, right? In that case, I think being understanding of where the person is coming from is very important because communication is so complicated. It's not just about the words or the knowledge that you have, it's also about the state of mind that someone is in. Like now I follow this guy called Simon Sinek. Okay. He's a really smart entrepreneur and he gives a lot of life tips, right? So, one thing he said about communication is um, he gave an example that he went to this. Broadway show, right? Of his friends. And he saw the show and he didn't really like her performance. The story was okay. But after the show, she was tired, she was sweating, and then she came out and she said, wow, you know, what did you guys think about the show? And he said that, okay, I could have very easily said, yeah, it was terrible. Your acting was so loud. It was so whatever, right? But I thought to myself, like, I'm not going to get anything by this. And when she asked me, I didn't want to lie. So I said, I'm so honored that you invited me and I'm so happy that I got to see you perform and support you, which is not incorrect. He didn't criticize her. He didn't say anything he didn't lie, and he was very supportive about it. And then and he finished it off by saying that I can't wait to discuss this performance with you tomorrow when you're like settled, when you're relaxed, changed, and when we are comfortable together, like let's say meet for a coffee or something. And the next day he met her, he realized that he knew obviously in the beginning, but he did it because in that moment she was filled with adrenaline. She had just finished the show. She was so excited to hear the reviews, right? Had he said that, hey, I think it was these are my views, I think it was bad, it was loud, whatever it is, she would have been so drained, so disappointed, so demotivated that she may never have wanted to do it again, or
Mm.
maybe second guessed everything she did from then on, or let's say she got sad, and in that moment she got sad and went back to the changing room and told all of her friends that, the review was really bad. For me personally, the show was good, but for me it was bad. And that brings down the energy of everyone. You may be celebrating a win, but if, sorry, give me a second. Yeah. You may be celebrating a win, but just because somebody else is hurt or not in the same mindset as you may start empathizing with them over celebrating the victory itself. So he said that communication is not the only thing that's important. You have to see what emotion that person is in, right? The next
Right.
day, she was done. The whole day was
Mm-hmm.
over. She went home. She rested peacefully. She could sleep knowing
Mm-hmm.
that she performed well. Then we spoke and we had a nice conversation about how we can progress with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had I told her on the same night, maybe she would have been defensive and said, you don't know anything about theater or something. So
Right.
again, you may have to find this video. It is some
Mm-hmm.
interview that he did with some. I don't remember specifically the details of the video. I remember the story though. But it reminds me that just because you know something doesn't mean you have to put it out that I know I am better than you or whatever it is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that is the first sign of someone with wisdom and someone who's not doing things to be right or to prove people wrong, right? Because that is ego. If I don't care
Right.
what emotion you're in and I'm like, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
you're wrong, please be quiet. I'm telling you what to do. Like that is not a person who has good intentions of communicating,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? So again, this may like the story, I may have screwed up the storytelling
Mm-hmm.
process. So maybe
No,
watch
but
the video itself.
this was really interesting and thoughtful as well because your words can make or ruins somebody's days, right? So you need to
Yeah,
be very mindful talking about whatever you think, right? And
definitely.
yes, I would say like when you are presenting your point, so you need to acknowledge the other person's point as well. It's not like you
Definitely.
need to make them feel belittle in front of you, right?
Hmm.
So that's a great thing. Like I also practice this thing that whenever I am in discussion a discussion about something with somebody, so I would always acknowledge other person's
Point
perspective,
of
and
view.
I'll not
Yeah.
make them feel belittle in front of me. And at the same time, I would not make myself great in front of them. So you need to have that down to earth nature, right? And then only people would also respect you. Otherwise, they will listen to your one or two conversation, but other than that, they would feel that you're not approachable or you're not welcoming, right? So they'll not like to have conversation with you, right?
They even if you give them good advice, they will not respect it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you need to maintain that nature, that calm and down to earth nature in front of people.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, down to earth, I have seen a lot of people who are very brutal with the truth and very, like again, it's very circumstantial. Like I meant, like if somebody, beauty is in the eye of the beholder as well, right? It's not just that if you're nice about it, they may take it nicely. Even
Mhm.
in this situation that I gave you, where the guy criticized her, not even criticized her, he gave her constructive criticism the next day, right? Had she been in a moment where she's like, I have succeeded and now nobody can tell me what to do, she could have also taken it negatively, right?
Mhm.
Again, like that's why I started with a disclaimer. This is my opinion. This
Mhm.
is how I see the world. Okay, it may not be how it actually is. This is my
Mhm.
personal preference or how I see things to happen. But very circumstantial. Sometimes you need to be absolutely blunt about certain truths and set the boundary.
Mhm.
Sometimes you need to be a little bit soft, show empathy, and uh, be a little calculated in how you're going to talk or when you're going to talk, right?
Mhm.
But again, everything comes down to the fact that people need to put themselves in these situations to make their own decisions on how they want to handle things or how they want
Mhm.
to present their thoughts or opinions. So this is exactly why I keep telling people just keep having conversations. Like in
Right.
English, we say throw yourself in the deep end, right?
Mhm.
So just put yourself in situations when you feel uncomfortable. I know in the beginning it's scary and you feel like you never want to be in the situation again. But that is the worst thing you can do is because in the future, whether it's with your career or your personal life or with your family, there may be a situation where you need to deal with it. And sometimes it even has a time constraint, like you need to deal with it now, in the next 5 minutes, in the next 20 minutes, whatever it is. When that time comes, your body, your mind needs to be prepared to be in uncomfortable situations, right? It's the same thing with soldiers. Like they
Mhm.
pretend to be in a war in the training so that when they're actually in the war, they don't feel overwhelmed or they don't feel like this is
Mhm.
something new and I can't cope with it. Right.
Right. Right. Right.
So you need to be in a simulated war now so that when the actual war comes, you're completely fine.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that was really nice. And this can be applied to our English learning journey as well, right? So you need to
Definitely.
prepare yourself for conversation, real-time conversation. So you can give
Yeah.
yourself some topic in advance, talk about it, research on it, and then go for conversations, right? So
Yeah.
that would be really nice.